Hello and welcome to this Tuesday edition of the World Report. I am Arjun, Samar, Mahendran, and here's what's making headlines around the world. US President Donald Trump said on Monday that Washington's space plan for Gaza would in fact involve the drawing up of a timeline for Israeli forces to withdraw from the Palestinian enclave in phases. Now, Mr. Trump also thanked Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who was in fact standing right beside him, for agreeing to his 20-point peace plan for Gaza. Then he issued a warning to the Palestinian group Hamas that Israel will have the United States' quote-unquote full backing to destroy the militant group if they rejected this deal. Meanwhile, PM Narendra Modi has welcomed the announcement of a comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict. The PM said that the plan provides a viable pathway to long-term and sustainable peace for the Palestinian and Israeli people as well as for the larger West Asian region. My colleague Tony Waterman gets you more, but first, here's Trump and Netanyahu for you.
Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas, but I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace, and if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it, but I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, Bibi, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do.
Your plan provides a practical and realistic path forward for Gaza in the coming years, in which Gaza will be administered neither by Hamas nor the Palestinian Authority, but by those committed to a genuine peace with Israel. I think this can be not only a new beginning for Gaza, I think it can be a new beginning for the entire region.
It's very unclear if Hamas is going to agree to this 20-point peace plan because it has already rejected certain conditions that are now included in this deal. They have said for months that they will only release all of the hostages once Israel fully withdraws from the enclave. But under this plan, the hostages, dead and alive, would be released within 72 hours of an agreement, and there is no clear timetable for Israeli military withdrawal. Hamas has also said that it will not disarm, a central tenet to this deal. It will also have no role to play in a new government. So the ball is very much being left in Hamas's court, which may be intentional because if the terrorist organization does not agree to this deal, then Israel, with the backing of the U.S., gets to carry out what has long been Tel Aviv's main objective, to eliminate Hamas, a goal that many experts say is nearly impossible without completely destroying Gaza. This plan also lays out a framework for who will be in charge of a post-war Gaza. This has been a major question mark over this conflict for many months. So under this plan, a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee will be created, and they will be responsible for the day-to-day operations. But that committee will be supervised by a new board of peace, as it is being called. And that board is going to be chaired by President Donald Trump. Others would be involved as well, including former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. Now, this body will set the framework and handle the funding for the redevelopment of Gaza. Just a few months ago, President Trump said that he'd like to turn Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East, focusing on how lucrative the waterfront property could be, even suggesting that everyone leave the enclave during construction. This plan, though, explicitly states that no one will be required to leave Gaza.
Stay with Washington, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu apologized to Qatar on Monday for a recent airstrike in Doha, said a statement from the Qatari Foreign Ministry. Now, Netanyahu made the apology during a trilateral phone call with Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani and US President Donald Trump. Now, according to the statement that has been released by Qatar's Foreign Ministry, the Israeli Prime Minister expressed regret over the incident and pledged that such an event would not reoccur. The statement also said that the US reaffirmed its full commitment to the defense partnership between the United States and Qatar during this trilateral phone call. Shift our focus eastwards, where Russia said on Monday that its forces had intercepted Ukrainian rockets as well as missiles, while Ukraine on the same day reported pounding Russian military targets, as you see there on your screens right now. The Russian Defense Ministry said in its air defense system intercepted 4 HIMARS rockets and 3 Neptune missiles over the past 24 hours. The Russian army struck Ukrainian aviation repair enterprise and several temporary Ukrainian military bases. They also took control of a settlement in the Donetsk region, the ministry said. Meanwhile, the Russian air defense forces intercepted and shot down 78 Ukrainian drones in regions of Bryansk, Belgorod, Voronezh, Moscow and Kursk from Sunday night to early Monday morning. Canada has formally designated the Lawrence Bishnoi gang, or the dreaded Lawrence Bishnoi gang, as a terrorist entity under its criminal code. It cited the group's violent activities, intimidation tactics, as well as threats to members of the Indian diaspora. Now, for prospective viewers, the Bishnoi gang in recent months has allegedly been involved in firing shots at comedian Kapil Sharma's newly opened cafe because actor Salman Khan apparently was invited for the inauguration. My colleague Maha Siddiqui joins us with the latest straight from Vancouver.
In a consequential move, Canada has listed the Lawrence Bishnoi gang as a terrorist outfit. This will now give the law enforcement agencies the ability to be able to seize their property as well as freeze their accounts. It will also give them more tools of prosecution, for instance, to be able to crack down on the recruitment by this gang as well as clamp down on the travel by the gang members. The move will also make it illegal for any Canadian to deal with any property related to the Lawrence Bishnoi gang or to be able to provide any property to them. The Federal Minister for Public Safety, Gary Anand Sangare, in a statement said that any form of violence in Canada will not be tolerated, especially one that is directed at a particular community to create a sense of fear and intimidation. This statement also described the Lawrence Bishnoi gang as a transnational criminal organization that was operating primarily out of India. Now, a similar statement and accusation has been seen in the past by the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby, who had written to Prime Minister Mark Carney asking for the listing of the Lawrence Bishnoi gang, saying that he had received several complaints from the Indian community here in British Columbia, especially in pockets where there is a sizable population of the South Asian community, saying that they had received extortion calls as well as threat to their life from the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. This was backed by the Premier of Alberta, Daniel Smith, who too wrote to Prime Minister Mark Carney asking for a similar designation of the Lawrence Bishnoi gang. And it is not just these two provinces. The province of Ontario too has been facing a similar problem and has raised this issue several times, saying that the South Asian community, specifically in Brampton, had been living in fear and intimidation of this gang.
Banned Khalistani extremist outfit seeks for justice, or the SFJ as it's called, led by designated terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu, has issued another direct threat to India's High Commissioner in Canada, Dinesh Patnaik. The SFJ has announced a 12-hour protest outside Patnaik's Ottawa residence on the 18th of October, also offering a $10,000 bounty for his address. Now, this comes after Canada labelled the Bishnoi gang a terror group, in fact. Now, that's something Pannu dismissed as a political move. But this, viewers, is not an isolated provocation. You might remember on the 18th of September, a couple of weeks ago, the banned outfit also issued a similar threat against Indian diplomats, essentially announcing a siege of the Indian consulate in Vancouver. India's foreign ministry, meanwhile, responded sharply, saying Canada is fully responsible for protecting Indian diplomats. Meanwhile, talks between both the sides are ongoing, even as banned outfits like the SFJ threaten further disruption. Over in the UK, Mahatma Gandhi's statue in Tavistock Square, London, was defaced on Monday. Now, it comes just days before the annual Gandhi Jayanti celebrations are scheduled to take place at the site on the 2nd of October. That's Tuesday, in fact. That's tomorrow, in fact. The High Commission of India has strongly condemned the incident, calling it a shameful act and an assault on the legacy of non-violence. In fact, in a post on social media X, the Indian mission said the desecration was reported to local authorities. Even its officials were on site to coordinate the restoration of the monument to its original state. Pakistan-occupied Kashmir is witnessing one of its largest protests in recent history, viewers. This as the Awami Action Committee, or the AAC as it's called, launched sweeping demonstrations across the region on Monday. The call for a shutterdown and wheel jam strike, potentially indefinite in this case, has triggered heightened tensions, with Islamabad deploying security forces en masse and also cutting internet access from midnight to curb mobilization. Here's a report.
Chaos on the streets of Muzaffarabad. A decisive cry for rights. Silence with bullets. What began as a peaceful protest has now turned into one of the deadliest uprisings in the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir in recent years. 2 people killed, 22 injured, and a city in lockdown. Witnesses say armed thugs, backed by the Pakistan Army and the ISI, supported Muslim Conference, opened fire on unarmed civilians demanding nothing more than their basic rights. For the past 24 hours, Muzaffarabad has been at a standstill. Shops shut, businesses closed, and a transport halted, part of a massive strike led by the Awami Action Committee. The protesters are not just on the streets. They have a detailed charter of 38 demands. These include abolishing privileged assembly seats reserved for the refugees in Pakistan, immediate end to luxury lifestyle of elite government politicians, ending the looting by mobile companies, reforms in governance, and even construction of vital infrastructure like highways, tunnels, and an international airport. They want clean drinking water, fair electricity tariffs, better education, local jobs, judicial reforms, and an end to corruption. Traders, students, farmers, even section of society has rallied behind the call for justice. But what has shaken the valley is the sheer defiance in the face of force. Protest leaders call this a decisive battle, urging all of Jammu and Kashmir to come out for their rights and join the indefinite strike against the Pakistan government and Pakistan deep state. As bullets fly and anger boils over, the protests in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir have sent a chilling message across the region. When the demand for dignity is met with violence, the cry for justice only grows louder. And the Gen Z in Muzaffarabad are out on the streets demanding accountability. With Aditya Raj Kaul, Bureau Report, NDTV.
With that, we shift our focus to Southeast Asia, further eastwards, in fact, where Typhoon Bulai struck Vietnam early Monday morning, leaving at least 16 dead and another 21 missing. After making landfall in the northern central Vietnamese province of Ha Tinh, Bulai caused massive destruction in 3 provinces, also blowing off roofs and toppling trees and utility poles in certain cases. Many of the typhoon-hit areas were still without power and internet services by Monday evening, posing further challenges to the disaster relief mission. Rescuers ran oxygen and water to students trapped in the unstable concrete rubble of a collapsed school building in Indonesia as they desperately worked to free survivors. Tuesday morning, more than 12 hours, in fact, after the structure fell. At least one student was killed, dozens were injured, and 65 were also presumed buried in the rubble. Rescue workers, meanwhile, police and soldiers as well, digging through the night, pulled out 8 weak and injured survivors more than 8 hours after the college in Al Khuzini Islamic boarding school in East Java town of Sidoarjo. And with that, it's time we step into a short break. We'll be right back. Don't you go anywhere. Alphabet-owned YouTube has finally agreed to pay $24.5 billion to settle a lawsuit that US President Donald Trump brought against the company over the suspension of his account following the January 2021 US Capitol riots. The alleged insurrection, as it was called, a court filing showed on Monday. Now, this deal makes Google the last of the three big tech companies to resolve lawsuits Trump brought back in July 2021, accusing the company of unlawfully silencing conservative viewpoints. Now, Trump had also sued Twitter, now known as X, and Facebook owner Meta, as well as Alphabet's Google, and their chief executives in July 2021. While Alphabet-owned YouTube has agreed to pay $24.5 billion to settle a lawsuit Trump brought against the company over the suspension of his account following the 2021 Capitol riots. A court filing showed this on Monday. Stay with the US, where President Donald Trump signed a proclamation Monday to impose tariffs on imports of timber, lumber, and their derivative products to bolster American industry and protect national security. At least that's what the Trump admin has been claiming. Now, this proclamation in question imposes a 10% global tariff on imports of softwood lumber and 25% on certain upholstered furniture, which will increase to 30% on the 1st of January. It also imposes a 25% global tariff on kitchen cabinets and vanities, which will increase to 50% come January 1. Now, the new rates would start or kick off the 14th of October. This is according to the proclamation signed by the US President. The information reports that OpenAI generated around $4.3 billion in revenue in the first half of 2025, or earlier this year, about 16% more than it generated all of last year in 2024. Now, according to this report, OpenAI said it burned $2.5 billion in large parts due to its research and development costs for developing artificial intelligence and for running ChatGPT. Now, Shiming, a Chinese doctor and an ultimate fighting championship fighter, is setting her sights on bigger competition arena while continuing to diligently care for her patients. That's correct. Now, by day, she practices acupuncture at a hospital in the southwest, in southwest China's Yunnan province. And by night, well, she transforms into a fearless fighter stepping into the octagon. Nicknamed the Doctor, she embodies a unique duality, balancing the Hippocratic oath of a medical career with the controlled violence of a burgeoning profession in mixed martial arts, or MMA, as it's called. Viewers, the 30-year-old strawweight made her full UFC debut in late August, headlining the Road to UFC card against Brazil's Bruna Brazil in Shanghai. Here's more.
也是因为这一次是在上海比赛，然后有这么多中国人在支持我，给我加油。如果我没有把冠军留住的话，我觉得也是一种很大的错误。这一次的比赛是我目前为止上过的最大的一个国际舞台，然后我还没有办法把这些压力变成动力。然后每天晚上睡觉的时候，我就会想很多，回看我的笔记，去回忆我哪里做的不对，然后想改进一下。
Meanwhile, in the world of entertainment, viewers, music icon Madonna sat down with Jay Shetty for her first ever podcast interview on Purpose with Jay Shetty. Now, the Material Girl talked about her decades-long spiritual journey as well as life-changing highs and lows, including her unhappiness despite worldwide success, being raped while living in New York and contracting sepsis and waking up in the ICU while rehearsing for a tour. Let's listen in.
I had everything that people would assume would give you happiness. I had a successful career. I had fame, fortune, monetary things, physical things. But I wasn't happy. When I came to New York, when I was broke and I had no friends, I was held up at gunpoint. I was robbed. I was raped. All these horrendous things happened to me, but I just feel like I've always had a guardian angel. It took me a minute to figure out how blessed I was and that the universe was protecting me and looking out for me. I had such an unhappy childhood that whatever happened to me in New York City, I was like, whatever happens to me is better than what I'm sticking around. I'm not going back.
Hollywood superstar George Clooney has said that Vice President Donald Trump is quote-unquote not wrong about filmmaking leaving Los Angeles. Now, Trump's proposed 100% tariff on movies made outside America would be pretty damaging to business. Here's what Clooney said.
If it really happens, it would be pretty damaging to the business. Look, he's not wrong about the idea that businesses have left Los Angeles. They have in droves. What we need is, the incentives, the tax incentives that you get here in New York. By the way, they're building studios here because there's so much work. We need those. And by the way, if he really wants to fix it, then we should talk about a federal incentive passed to keep people working in Los Angeles, because there are tons of below the line people, grips and cinematographers, who are losing their jobs because work is going away, leaving to states, to New York and Louisiana and places like that, but also to London and other places. So it'd be nice if we had a federal sort of rebate.
Nearly 20 years after they tied the knot, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban are separating. Well, that's correct. The 58-year-old Australian actor and the 57-year-old country music singer have been living apart since June this year, according to entertainment website TMZ.
How are you doing? Are you all right?
And well, with that, it's a wrap on this Tuesday edition of The World Report. I'm Arjun, Samar, Mahendran. Take care and have a wonderful day.